the UCI just brought in a new rule that says that everyone has to ride a 56 centimetre bike and wear size 12 shoes. Of course, that is jest. That is not what they've done. But they are about to start trialling a ban on huge gears. So this could be bad news for SRAM, or at least that is what the media outlets out there are leading us to believe. So let's get into it. So essentially, the new rule is limiting the maximum distance a bike can travel through one pedal rotation in the hardest gear, and they're limiting it to 10 meters and 46 centimeters. So that is the rough equivalent of a 5411 or 4910. So SRAM's standard cassette, the smallest cog on it is a 10-tooth, and the cranks that they currently offer for sale would mean that a professional bike racer would have to run a 4835 if they are limited to SRAM-only products. So the reason pros are obsessed with big chain rings is an efficiency thing, and it is definitely a pro thing. It's one of those marginals that they have an obsession with, and essentially, the bigger the chain rings, the less the chain is bending, the more efficient it is. So it's one of those things that they are always looking to try and do. So effectively what this means is that SRAM riders that have to use SRAM products will have a smaller chain ring on the front. The chain will be bent more, and technically it is slightly less efficient than the Shimano riders.
Serrano?
Yeah, than the Shimano riders with bigger chain rings.
Wait, what's Serrano? Is that ham?
I believe so, yeah.
Doesn't sound very efficient. I feel like when I listen to this, I feel like that meme of Out of the Hangover where he's in the casino and all of the numbers are just going around his head. Is this bad news for SRAM? Is it the end for SRAM? What does it mean, Jimmy?
No, it's not at all. It ultimately means that some professional bike racers will be frustrated that they have a slightly less efficient drive chain, but even for the pros, it will be unbelievably marginal. There will definitely be some people in the comments that say, no, it's a big deal. It isn't a big deal. But will we see SRAM make some other products? Will they let their riders use non-SRAM products so they can get slightly different setups? Perhaps. But really, I don't think it's that a big deal. Where do you stand on it, Francis?
Does it affect TTs, or is it just road
so
racing?
So I believe
road
it's just road racing, and at least for now, time trialing is unaffected.
Okay. Well, yeah, because a lot of the TT riders who really push big gears, they want such massive chain rings. It's insane. If it's for road, I guess it's less of a big deal. But there is definitely going to be some people annoyed with it because I think that 10 sprocket is it's so twisty for the chain to get around. Like, it does affect the efficiency. Not that it would matter to anyone normal. But it is what it is. It reminds me of junior racing. You have to do so at the start, you're limited even more as a junior to what gears you can run. I'm not sure exactly of the reasoning. Maybe it's a speed thing, race speed thing, or maybe it's to protect the riders in some way, in a physiological sense. I'm not sure.
I think it is that.
Yeah, but they do like a reverse. You reverse your bike, like a roll back, I think they called it. So the commissaire will make sure the juniors are not riding gears so big, because there's a few different combinations you can have. And then like the junior cassettes that you could get were massive fat cassettes with like just one gear change each, one tooth in between each of the gear sprockets. So yeah, just reminds me of that for adults.
So I guess the people that are going to have the biggest issue are sprinters, because it effectively means they're not going to be able to put bonkers big gearing on. So we might actually see, if this does stick, that actually the fastest people on bikes are the ones that can do the highest cadence, rather than necessarily the biggest amount of power.
Yeah, interesting. It seems to be strange. What's the reasoning behind, like, why have the UCI done this? Was it a speed thing?
Yeah, safety, I think. Like,
which
all
seems
of
so silly to me. I just think it's such misplaced energy when crashes are caused by, almost always, it's like a surprise pothole or an animal running out or a person dragging or putting a cardboard sign in the middle of the race, or a bit of road furniture that hasn't been removed properly. It's always surprise stuff like that.
Or one of the cars.
or a car,
team
yeah,
car
or
just
a
in the
big
road.
inflatable barrier like collapsing on the peloton. It's never, it's almost always that. And I suppose limiting speed, but at such high speeds, the crashes, if it's going to be happening anyway, it just seems like a ridiculous use of energy and misplaced. The thought process, I just don't quite get.
It's interesting you say that because we actually had an unpopular opinion this week that was going to include later, but it's relevant to now, so it's moving up the list. It's from Ava, and she says, unpopular opinion, with the recent UCI changes being motivated by rider safety, I keep wondering why the UCI doesn't tackle some easy fixes that seem obvious to me. For example, have foam pads and nets on fast corners of descents. Install chicanes on fast descents to slow riders down.
Ooh.
Have 2 sets of barriers at the sprint finish, one made of foam and then one further back where the public stands. It does require some work to set up, but if downhill mountain bike races organisers can do it, I don't see how road racers with their vastly superior budgets could not.
Particularly that in the finishing straights, I can see bike races do install padding sometimes, but there's so many times you see crashes around corners and the riders go straight into a hard metal barrier. In fact, I've crashed into one. It's not very nice. So surely like a bit of effort, instead of putting effort into stuff like this, put effort into just putting some soft shit around the corners. She's totally right. It's so obvious.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, in this article from Bike Radar that's brought up the new gearing changes, they have a line saying that Wout van Aert and Chris Froome have called for gearing restrictions before to curb the use of increasingly big chain rings in the peloton. They're basically saying slowing it down will make it safer. So there's clearly debate, and even the pros. I mean, Wout van Aert is on Team Visma Lease bike. They ride SRAM. Maybe he'll regret saying that now that he knows that it's marginally affecting them. If you want to see it that way, but it's interesting. There doesn't seem to be one pool of thought here, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think, off the back of this, that SRAM will start supplying teams and I suppose releasing to the public, even though it will probably just be out of stock all the time, like some of these products are, a cassette with an 11 sprocket on?
I'm not sure. I think they are going to be pretty committed to the way they design their products, and they're not going to want to change that. I think for the SRAM-sponsored teams, they're probably going to tell them to suck it up and just deal with it. And I would imagine quite a few, like the bike racers, like someone like Pogacar. I'm not, someone like Pogacar, for example. If you gave him a different setup that technically was a bit less efficient than another one, he's going to go, I don't care, I'm still going to win.
Yeah.
There are going to be bike racers that want all of the marginal bits because they need them, but the best riders in the world, they're not going to care. They're just going to be like, right, yeah, well, I'm doing my training, I'm doing my thing. This is what I've got, because they're used to just riding what they're given anyway. Really, they're just going to go and bash it.
He was riding a probably not that fast Colnago for a long time.
Exactly.
Well, before we move on from this section, I wanted to mention that the UCI has provided more clarity around their handlebar rules. Sorry if you're sick of hearing about this, but it does rumble on. They haven't come back on it. That was my prediction that they'd roll it back, but no, they're 10 toes down and they've given more clarity on it. Which means you can actually get your hood slightly narrower than we initially thought.
Right, that was a big error in the calculation, I think, and looked a bit embarrassing for the UCI, along with their diagram of the shifters being installed in the wrong place. So at least they've gone back on that bit, but this still disproportionately affects female riders and smaller riders, so I think it's still silly.
Correct. Agreed. And there has been even more letters and organisations, the Cyclists Alliance, which is sort of a group that acts on behalf of the female peloton. They've written a letter, and yeah, it's still kicking off, I guess. British Cycling have apparently said that they're not going to implement the changes on handlebar width or wheel depth above 65 mil. So, good news if you race in this country.
Yeah, are they, except for their official UCI events, but I suppose
there's not that many, is there?
Governed. There's not that
if
many.
any.
No.
Really.
So usually they're just adopting the UCI's rulings because it's the easy thing to do, and at least it matches up most of the time. But they don't have to.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What I would say is that source came from Swanya Tim Allen via Instagram. He was saying he had spoken.
Oh, he was really upset. Have you watched some of his clips
Yes.
about it? Because he's obviously, it's not just a bike fitter. He runs a bike brand too, and they've obviously carefully looked at the UCI rules and tried to make a product which is as fast as it can possibly be, while also being comfortable for people. You know, he's really put effort into this, and these rules have completely made things very difficult for him. But I suppose this British cycler, he's mainly selling bikes to Brits, and if they're unaffected, then happy days for him. I'm sure he'll be very happy with this change.